Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. The following content is provided strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. We are discussing historical media trends and the evolution of specialized professional roles within the real estate industry. This video does not constitute legal, financial, or real estate advice. Real estate laws and licensing requirements vary significantly by state, and matrimonial legal proceedings are highly sensitive. Always consult with a licensed attorney, a certified financial planner, or a qualified real estate professional regarding your specific situation. Conduct your own due diligence before making any significant life or investment decisions. Imagine a world where every single light in the neighborhood is turned off at 8 p.m., not because people are sleeping, but because they are paralyzed by a voice coming out of a wooden box in the living room. In the 1930s, American radio was not just a medium. It was a psychological tether that bound a fractured nation together during the Great Depression. But here is the shocking reality. The same emotional triggers, the cliffhangers, and the narrative structures used to sell soap and cigarettes to your great-grandparents are the exact same mechanisms being used today by a new breed of professional, the divorce real estate agent. While the radio dramas of the past were designed to capture the imagination, the modern divorce real estate specialist is designed to navigate the collapse of the American dream in real time. We are witnessing a collision between the history of mass-marketed emotion and the cold, hard reality of the U.S. housing market. Most people think these two worlds are light years apart, but they are built on the same foundation of human crisis and high-stakes transitions. By the end of this deep dive, you will understand how the golden age of radio birthed the modern marketing of empathy, and why the specialized role of the divorce agent is becoming the most critical, yet misunderstood, position in the 21st century real estate landscape. The American radio drama was the first true masterclass in open-loop psychology. An open loop is a storytelling technique that leaves a question unanswered, forcing the human brain to seek closure. In the 1930s and 40s, shows like The Shadow or Ma Perkins mastered this. They understood that if you could create a state of emotional suspense, you could command the attention of 20 million people simultaneously. This was the theater of the mind. Because there were no visuals, the audience had to co-create the experience. If a floorboard creaked in a radio script, the listener's brain painted the most terrifying staircase imaginable. This level of engagement created a deep, visceral trust between the listener and the narrator. To understand the modern real estate landscape, we must first analyze the soap opera phenomenon. The term itself comes from the fact that these daytime radio dramas were sponsored by soap manufacturers like Procter & Gamble. They realized that their target demographic, housewives managing the domestic sphere, were going through a daily grind of repetitive labor. To sell a product, the manufacturers didn't just list the ingredients of the soap. They attached the product to a narrative of domestic struggle, triumph, and resolution. They sold the solution to a life of emotional complexity. Fast forward to the current U.S. housing market, and we see a direct parallel. Selling a home isn't just a transaction involving square footage and comparable sales. It is often the final act of a long-form personal drama. This brings us to the rise of the divorce real estate agent, a role that functions less like a traditional salesperson and more like a high-stakes mediator or a producer of a final chapter. In the United States, historical trends indicate that approximately 40% to 50% of marriages may end in dissolution. When a house is involved, it is often the largest single asset and the most significant point of contention. The traditional real estate model is built on the happy move, the growing family, the job promotion, the retirement dream. But the divorce real estate specialist operates in the theater of reality. They are entering a narrative that is already in its most climactic, often most destructive phase. Case studies in high-conflict real estate show that a standard agent often fails in these scenarios because they lack the specialized training to handle neutrality. In a radio drama, the narrator must remain a steady presence while the characters around them spiral. Similarly, a divorce agent must maintain a dual agency of neutrality, ensuring that neither spouse feels the other has a tactical advantage in the sale. This involves a level of process management that goes far beyond a standard listing. We are talking about managing court-ordered timelines, navigating restraining orders that prevent parties from being in the same room, and dealing with spite-based property damage. Consider the historical shift in how we communicate value. In the 1940s, a radio advertisement for a home appliance would focus on how that item would stabilize the family unit. Today, the divorce real estate agent focuses on how the sale of the home will provide the liquidity necessary for the next act. They are the bridge between the open loop of a broken marriage and the closed loop of a settled estate. This is a masterclass in specialized niche marketing. While the generalist agent is fighting for a shrinking pool of standard buyers, the specialist is diving into a market segment that is recession-resistant. People get divorced in good economies and bad economies. To truly grasp why this is the most important real estate evolution of our time, we have to look at the data of the silver divorce trend. In the US, divorce rates among adults over the age of 50 have doubled since the 1990s. These are individuals who have spent 30 years building equity in a family home that was the setting of their life's radio drama. They are not just selling 4 walls and a roof. They are liquidating 3 decades of memories, often under the heavy influence of cortisol and grief. The agent who approaches this like a standard transaction will lose the client, or worse, end up in a deposition. We are going to break down the specific mechanics of this historical transition. We will look at how the War of the Worlds broadcast taught us about mass panic, and how that same psychological contagion affects a real estate bidding war during a contentious legal split. We will examine the radio script of a listing presentation for a divorcing couple, how every word must be calibrated to avoid triggering a veto from either side. This is about the power of the spoken word to either de-escalate a crisis or ignite a legal firestorm. This video solves a critical problem for the modern American viewer. Whether you are a professional looking to specialize your career, or a homeowner navigating the complexities of a life transition, you need to understand the underlying architecture of persuasion and negotiation. We are moving away from the era of generalist everything. Just as radio gave way to hyper-specific television channels and eventually to targeted algorithms, the real estate industry is fracturing into high-precision roles. The divorce real estate agent is the vanguard of this movement. They are the ones who understand that the American dream sometimes requires a tactical, respectful, and highly organized exit strategy. Throughout this 10-part deep dive, we will explore the step-by-step evolution of these two seemingly disparate worlds. We will analyze the scripts of 1930s dramas to find the persuasion techniques used by top-tier mediators today. We will look at the financial data surrounding marital waste, and how an expert agent prevents the home's value from being cannibalized by legal fees. This is not just a history lesson, and it is not just a real estate tutorial. This is a study in human behavior under pressure. We are looking at the transition from the fictional dramas of the airwaves to the real-life dramas of the American suburbs, and how you can navigate either with the precision of a professional scriptwriter. Prepare to see the housing market and your own history through a completely different lens. Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. The following content is provided strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. We are discussing historical media trends and the evolution of specialized professional roles within the real estate industry. This video does not constitute legal, financial, or real estate advice. Real estate laws and licensing requirements vary significantly by state, and matrimonial legal proceedings are highly sensitive. Always consult with a licensed attorney, a certified financial planner, or a qualified real estate professional regarding your specific situation. Conduct your own due diligence before making any significant life or investment decisions. Imagine a world where every single light in the neighborhood is turned off at 8 p.m., not because people are sleeping, but because they are paralyzed by a voice coming out of a wooden box in the living room. In the 1930s, American radio was not just a medium. It was a psychological tether that bound a fractured nation together during the Great Depression. But here is the shocking reality. The same emotional triggers, the cliffhangers, and the narrative structures used to sell soap and cigarettes to your great-grandparents are the exact same mechanisms being used today by a new breed of professional, the divorce real estate agent. While the radio dramas of the past were designed to capture the imagination, the modern divorce real estate specialist is designed to navigate the collapse of the American dream in real time. We are witnessing a collision between the history of mass-marketed emotion and the cold, hard reality of the U.S. housing market. Most people think these two worlds are light years apart, but they are built on the same foundation of human crisis and high-stakes transitions. By the end of this deep dive, you will understand how the golden age of radio birthed the modern marketing of empathy, and why the specialized role of the divorce agent is becoming the most critical, yet misunderstood, position in the 21st century real estate landscape. The American radio drama was the first true masterclass in open-loop psychology. An open loop is a storytelling technique that leaves a question unanswered, forcing the human brain to seek closure. In the 1930s and 40s, shows like The Shadow or Ma Perkins mastered this. They understood that if you could create a state of emotional suspense, you could command the attention of 20 million people simultaneously. This was the theater of the mind. Because there were no visuals, the audience had to co-create the experience. If a floorboard creaked in a radio script, the listener's brain painted the most terrifying staircase imaginable. This level of engagement created a deep, visceral trust between the listener and the narrator. To understand the modern real estate landscape, we must first analyze the soap opera phenomenon. The term itself comes from the fact that these daytime radio dramas were sponsored by soap manufacturers like Procter & Gamble. They realized that their target demographic, housewives managing the domestic sphere, were going through a daily grind of repetitive labor. To sell a product, the manufacturers didn't just list the ingredients of the soap. They attached the product to a narrative of domestic struggle, triumph, and resolution. They sold the solution to a life of emotional complexity. Fast forward to the current U.S. housing market, and we see a direct parallel. Selling a home isn't just a transaction involving square footage and comparable sales. It is often the final act of a long-form personal drama. This brings us to the rise of the divorce real estate agent, a role that functions less like a traditional salesperson and more like a high-stakes mediator or a producer of a final chapter. In the United States, historical trends indicate that approximately 40% to 50% of marriages may end in dissolution. When a house is involved, it is often the largest single asset and the most significant point of contention. The traditional real estate model is built on the happy move, the growing family, the job promotion, the retirement dream. But the divorce real estate specialist operates in the theater of reality. They are entering a narrative that is already in its most climactic, often most destructive phase. Case studies in high-conflict real estate show that a standard agent often fails in these scenarios because they lack the specialized training to handle neutrality. In a radio drama, the narrator must remain a steady presence while the characters around them spiral. Similarly, a divorce agent must maintain a dual agency of neutrality, ensuring that neither spouse feels the other has a tactical advantage in the sale. This involves a level of process management that goes far beyond a standard listing. We are talking about managing court-ordered timelines, navigating restraining orders that prevent parties from being in the same room, and dealing with spite-based property damage. Consider the historical shift in how we communicate value. In the 1940s, a radio advertisement for a home appliance would focus on how that item would stabilize the family unit. Today, the divorce real estate agent focuses on how the sale of the home will provide the liquidity necessary for the next act. They are the bridge between the open loop of a broken marriage and the closed loop of a settled estate. This is a masterclass in specialized niche marketing. While the generalist agent is fighting for a shrinking pool of standard buyers, the specialist is diving into a market segment that is recession-resistant. People get divorced in good economies and bad economies. To truly grasp why this is the most important real estate evolution of our time, we have to look at the data of the silver divorce trend. In the U.S., divorce rates among adults over the age of 50 have doubled since the 1990s. These are individuals who have spent 30 years building equity in a family home that was the setting of their life's radio drama. They are not just selling 4 walls and a roof. They are liquidating 3 decades of memories, often under the heavy influence of cortisol and grief. The agent who approaches this like a standard transaction will lose the client, or worse, end up in a deposition. We are going to break down the specific mechanics of this historical transition. We will look at how the War of the Worlds broadcast taught us about mass panic, and how that same psychological contagion affects a real estate bidding war during a contentious legal split. We will examine the radio script of a listing presentation for a divorcing couple, how every word must be calibrated to avoid triggering a veto from either side. This is about the power of the spoken word to either de-escalate a crisis or ignite a legal firestorm. This video solves a critical problem for the modern American viewer. Whether you are a professional looking to specialize your career, or a homeowner navigating the complexities of a life transition, you need to understand the underlying architecture of persuasion and negotiation. We are moving away from the era of generalist everything. Just as radio gave way to hyper-specific television channels and eventually to targeted algorithms, the real estate industry is fracturing into high-precision roles. The divorce real estate agent is the vanguard of this movement. They are the ones who understand that the American dream sometimes requires a tactical, respectful, and highly organized exit strategy. Throughout this 10-part deep dive, we will explore the step-by-step evolution of these two seemingly disparate worlds. We will analyze the scripts of 1930s dramas to find the persuasion techniques used by top-tier mediators today. We will look at the financial data surrounding marital waste and how an expert agent prevents the home's value from being cannibalized by legal fees. This is not just a history lesson, and it is not just a real estate tutorial. This is a study in human behavior under pressure. We are looking at the transition from the fictional dramas of the airwaves to the real-life dramas of the American suburbs, and how you can navigate either with the precision of a professional scriptwriter. Prepare to see the housing market and your own history through a completely different lens. To understand how we arrived at this intersection of media and real estate, we must dissect the architectural shift of the American home itself during the mid-20th century. In the early days of radio, the device was a massive piece of furniture, often a cathedral-style wooden console that sat as the centerpiece of the living room. It was the communal hearth. Families gathered around it in a semicircle, their eyes fixed on a glowing dial while their ears processed the complex audio landscapes of Orson Welles or the comedic timing of Jack Benny. This communal experience created a unified household narrative. Everyone heard the same information at the same time. This mirrors the traditional real estate market of that era, where the household was viewed as a singular monolithic entity with one decision-maker. However, as we move into 2026, the household unit has fragmented. Just as radio eventually transitioned from the living room console to the portable transistor and eventually to the individualized smartphone podcast, the American family unit has moved toward a more individualized structure. This is where the divorce real estate agent enters the scene as a specialist in fragmented narratives. In a standard real estate transaction, you are dealing with a unified front. In a divorce transaction, you are dealing with two distinct, often conflicting storylines. Imagine if you are an agent in a suburb of Chicago in the year 2026. Your clients are Mark and Sarah. Mark is a high-level software engineer who views the home strictly as a line item on a spreadsheet, a calculation of equity, interest rates, and capital gains. Sarah, who has spent 15 years homeschooling their children in that same house, views the property as a physical manifestation of her identity and maternal legacy. This is a classic radio drama conflict, the logic of the system versus the emotion of the individual. If you approach this like a standard agent, focusing only on the comps and the curb appeal, you will trigger a catastrophic failure in communication. Historical trends show that when agents fail to recognize these individual narratives, the property often sits on the market significantly longer than average. Data from various real estate research groups suggest that high-conflict listings can take 30% to 50% longer to close if the agent is not trained in de-escalation. This is because every decision, from the listing price to the color of the paint used for touch-ups, becomes a proxy battle for the marriage itself. If Mark wants to list at $850,000 and Sarah wants $900,000, they aren't just arguing about $50,000. They are arguing about who has the power in the post-divorce hierarchy. The professional divorce real estate specialist uses a technique called the neutral third-party protocol. This is directly descended from the role of the radio producer. A producer's job was to ensure that the star actor and the sound effects engineer worked in harmony, even if they hated each other off-mic. The agent must create a communication structure where all information is delivered to both parties simultaneously. In 2026, this often involves specialized software or shared digital dashboards where every email, text, and offer is logged in a transparent, immutable ledger. This prevents the he said, she said dynamic that kills deals. Let's look at a case study involving a property in Northern Virginia. The couple, James and Linda, had a home valued at $1.2 million. James wanted a quick sale to move on with his life and liquidity. Linda felt that James had been financially irresponsible throughout the marriage and wanted to maximize every cent, even if it meant waiting 6 months for the perfect buyer. A standard agent would have likely taken a side, perhaps unintentionally, by validating one person's logic over the other. The divorce specialist, however, utilized an options-based matrix. Instead of telling them what to do, the agent presented 3 distinct potential outcomes based on historical market data: a 30-day fire sale, a 90-day market value sale, and a 6-month premium price strategy. By presenting the data as an external objective force, much like a scriptwriter follows the internal logic of a story, the agent allowed the couple to agree on the data rather than agree with each other. This brings us to the concept of the sound effect in real estate. In radio, a sound effect like a slamming door told the audience everything they needed to know about a character's emotional state without a word of dialogue. In real estate, the condition of the home serves as the sound effect. We often see malicious neglect in divorce cases. This is where one party stops mowing the lawn or leaves the house in disarray during showings to sabotage the sale, often out of a subconscious desire to stay in the home or to punish the other spouse financially. The specialist agent must be a master of physical staging neutrality. They often have to bring in third-party vendors, landscapers, cleaners, and stagers, who are paid out of the closing proceeds so that neither spouse has to ask the other for money to maintain the property. The history of the American radio drama also teaches us about the theater of crisis. During the 1930s, the fireside chats by Franklin D. Roosevelt were designed to calm a panicked public. The divorce agent performs a similar function during the closing crisis. There is a specific point in every divorce sale, usually right after the inspection report comes back, where the entire deal threatens to collapse. The buyer wants a credit for a cracked heat exchanger, and the divorcing sellers, already exhausted by legal fees, refuse to budge. This is where the agent's script must be flawless. They aren't just selling a house, they are selling a release of liability. We must also consider the legal intersection. In 2026, the integration of real estate and family law has reached a peak. The most successful agents are those who can speak the language of the court. They understand what a Rule 11 agreement is or how a special master can be appointed by a judge to take the decision-making power away from the feuding spouses. This is the equivalent of the radio station manager stepping into the booth when an actor goes off script. The agent provides the court with the necessary documentation, the evidence of marketability, to ensure the judge has a clear path to sign off on the sale. But here is where the story takes a darker turn. Much like the transition from the light-hearted comedies of the early 40s to the gritty, war dramas of the late 40s. There is a psychological phenomenon known as transference that occurs in these transactions. The sellers often begin to view the agent as the source of their pain because the agent represents the finality of the divorce. Selling the house is the end of the series. There are no more episodes. This realization can lead to sudden, irrational outbursts and attempts to terminate the listing agreement at the 11th hour. How does a professional navigate this without becoming a casualty of the drama? The answer lies in the narrative distance practiced by the best radio journalists. They reported on the war without becoming the soldiers. The agent must maintain a boundary that is professional, empathetic, but strictly clinical. They are the lighthouse, not the storm. As we look toward the next phase of this masterclass, we have to ask a chilling question that listeners in 1938 asked during the War of the Worlds broadcast. Is what I am seeing real, or is it a carefully constructed illusion? In the real estate world, we are moving into an era of synthetic equity and AI-driven appraisals that could either save a divorcing couple or bankrupt them. If you think the emotional battle over the family home is intense now, wait until you see how technology is about to rewrite the script of the American divorce. We are about to enter the digital noir phase of the housing market, where the sound of the gavel is replaced by the click of an algorithm. What happens when the house itself starts to testify in the divorce? What happens when the smart home has more data on the marriage than the lawyers do? The next chapter of this deep dive explores the technological haunting of the modern American home and why your thermostat might be the most dangerous witness in your property settlement. The concept of the technological haunting is not a ghost story from a 1940s radio mystery like Inner Sanctum, but it is a data-driven reality in 2026. In the golden age of radio, the home was a fortress of privacy. Unless a neighbor was listening in on a party line telephone, what happened behind closed doors stayed there. Today, the American home is a massive interconnected sensory organ that records every movement, temperature change, and voice command. For a divorce real estate agent, this digital footprint becomes a critical component of the sale and the legal separation process. This is the era of the smart witness. Imagine if you are David, a homeowner in Austin, Texas in 2026. You are going through a high-conflict divorce. You claim you have moved out of the primary residence to establish a separate household, which is a key requirement for your legal proceedings. However, your spouse's attorney subpoenas the logs from the smart thermostat and the smart lighting system. The data shows that the primary bedroom's temperature is adjusted every night at 11 p.m., and the kitchen lights are activated at 6 a.m. daily. The home itself is testifying against your narrative. In the world of specialized real estate, the agent must now account for this digital residue. This brings us to the protocol of the digital scrub, a step-by-step process that modern divorce specialists must facilitate. Historically, An agent would suggest a fresh coat of neutral paint to help a house sell. In 2026, they suggest a neutral digital profile. Case studies from recent years show that buyers are increasingly wary of inherited surveillance. If a buyer moves into a home and finds the previous owner still has access to the Ring doorbell or the smart locks, it creates a massive liability and a psychological barrier to the sale. The agent must coordinate with IT professionals to ensure that all smart home hubs are factory reset and that the digital deed is transferred as cleanly as the physical one. The parallel to radio history here is profound. In the 1930s, the Mercury Theater on the Air utilized sound engineering to create a sense of presence. They used multiple microphones to create depth. Today, the modern home uses multiple sensors to create a profile of occupancy. When a house is being sold during a divorce, the soundscape of that occupancy data can be used to determine the valuation of the home's upkeep. If the data shows the HVAC system hasn't been engaged in 3 months, an inspector will go in looking for mold and stagnant water issues that aren't visible to the naked eye. The house is a storyteller, and the divorce agent is the one who has to make sure the story doesn't end in a lawsuit. Let's look at the financial data regarding smart home equity. According to historical trends through the early 2020s, homes with integrated smart technology could see a potential outcome of a 3% to 5% increase in perceived value. However, in a divorce scenario, this equity is often trapped, because neither party can agree on who owns the data or the subscriptions. We have seen case studies where a disgruntled spouse remotely turned off the heat in a Minnesota winter via a smartphone app, causing pipes to burst and destroying $100,000 in property value overnight. This is the new malicious neglect. The professional agent now includes digital access clauses in the listing agreement, stipulating that both parties must surrender administrative rights to a neutral third party during the listing period. Step by step, the divorce real estate specialist must navigate the digital audit. Step 1. Identification of all IoT devices, from the obvious like security cameras to the obscure like smart refrigerators and connected irrigation systems. Step 2. Procurement of all passwords and administrative credentials to be held in escrow. Step 3. A forensic sweep to ensure no hidden devices or spyware have been installed by one spouse to monitor the other during the move-out phase. This sounds like a plot from a 1950s radio noir like yours truly, Johnny Dollar, but in 2026, it is a standard operating procedure for high-net-worth divorce listings. The psychological impact of this technology on the sale cannot be overstated. In the old radio dramas, tension was built through silence. In a modern home sale, tension is built through data noise. Buyers in 2026 are savvy. They ask for energy usage reports to see the cost, but to see the patterns of the previous occupants. A divorce specialist knows how to present this data in a way that minimizes the drama and maximizes the utility. They frame the technological narrative as a benefit, an efficient, well-monitored machine, rather than a battlefield of a broken marriage. Consider the scenario of a connected kitchen in a home in Silicon Valley. The refrigerator tracks inventory and suggests recipes. During a divorce, this data can inadvertently reveal the presence of a third party in the home, which can complicate alimony negotiations. The real estate agent, while not a legal advisor, must be aware that every smart feature they highlight in a brochure could be a smoking gun in a courtroom. This requires a level of discretion and tech literacy that the industry has never seen before. We are moving away from the realtor as a salesperson and toward the realtor as a data steward. This shift mirrors the transition of radio from a live, ephemeral performance to a recorded, archived medium. Once radio shows began to be recorded on electrical transcription discs, the performance became permanent. It could be replayed, analyzed, and critiqued. Similarly, the performance of living in a home is now recorded in the cloud. The divorce agent is the archivist who decides which parts of that record are relevant to the market and which parts need to be deleted to protect the equity of the sellers. But what happens when the technology isn't just a witness but a participant? In 2026, we are seeing the rise of AI-driven negotiation bots. These are programs designed to act as a buffer between two hostile parties, using natural language processing to strip the emotional vitriol out of a text message before it reaches the other spouse. For example, if Sarah sends a message saying, "Tell that thief I'm not signing the disclosure until he pays for the broken window," the AI refines it to, "The seller requests the window repair be addressed before the disclosure is finalized." The divorce real estate agent is now the prompt engineer of these interactions, ensuring the script stays on track for a successful closing. The complexity of these smart divorces is creating a new hierarchy in the U.S. housing market. There is a widening gap between the value of a clean data home and a contaminated data home. A property with a messy digital history, liens that were filed digitally, smart home accounts in arrears, or unresolved data disputes, is becoming the modern equivalent of a home with a cracked foundation. It is a digital short sale. As we peel back the layers of this masterclass, we have to look at the ultimate arbiter of the American home, the appraisal. But in 2026, the appraisal is no longer just a human with a clipboard. It is an algorithmic judgment. And this algorithm is hungry for the very data we've been discussing. If the digital ghost of a divorce lingers in the data, it can trigger a risk flag in the lending software, potentially killing the buyer's mortgage. This leads us to a terrifying question. Can a marriage's failure actually lower the algorithmic value of a neighborhood? What happens when the AI decides that a street with too many high-conflict data patterns is a bad investment? The next part of our deep dive will examine the black mirror of real estate appraisals and how the ghosts of radio's past are being resurrected in the code that determines what your home is worth. We will explore the ghost in the machine of the 2026 housing market and the secret scripts that banks use to grade your domestic stability. The year 2026 has ushered in the era of the algorithmic appraisal, a shift that makes the dramatic tension of a 1940s radio mystery look like a playground dispute. In the old days, an appraiser was a human being who walked through your front door, smelled the cookies baking, noted the crown molding, and compared your home to 3 others on the block. Today, the valuation of a home is increasingly dictated by an automated valuation model, or AVM, but with a twist that feels straight out of a Philip K. Dick novel. These systems now ingest behavioral data, neighborhood sentiment analysis, and social stability metrics to arrive at a number. When a divorce occurs, it creates a specific kind of data noise that these algorithms are trained to detect as a risk factor. This is what we call the algorithmic ghost in the machine. To understand this, we have to look back at the history of radio sponsorship and audience tracking. In the 1940s, the Hooper ratings were the primary way radio shows were measured. They used telephone coincidental surveys, literally calling people and asking what they were listening to at that exact moment. It was a crude but effective way to determine the value of a time slot. If the Hooper ratings dropped, the sponsor pulled the plug, and the show was canceled. In 2026, the AVM is the modern Hooper rating, but instead of calling your house, it is monitoring the digital pulse of your property. Imagine if you are Robert, a homeowner in a high-density suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. You and your spouse have filed for divorce. The moment those papers are filed in the public record, the AVMs used by major lenders and real estate platforms pick up the signal. Historically, a divorce filing is a lead indicator of a forced sale. In the eyes of an algorithm, a forced sale is a distressed sale, and a distressed sale typically happens at a discount. Suddenly, without a single person stepping onto your property, your estimated home equity begins to fluctuate. The algorithm has preemptively adjusted for the drama it expects will follow. The divorce real estate agent in this scenario must act as an algorithmic defense attorney. They have to know how to feed the machine the right data to counteract the negative signals. This involves a step-by-step process of data rehabilitation. Step 1 is the verification of property maintenance through digital logs. If the AVM sees a divorce filing but also sees a consistent, high-end service history from a reputable HVAC company and a landscaping firm, it reconciles the risk. Step 2 involves the use of high-resolution digital twin technology. By creating a Matterport-style 3D scan of the home that is time-stamped and uploaded to the listing, the agent provides the algorithm with hard proof that the property has not been subject to malicious neglect or spite damage. We see this play out in case studies involving high-conflict properties in the Pacific Northwest. In one instance, a home's value on major consumer platforms dropped by 4% within 2 weeks of a contentious legal battle becoming public. The specialist agent intervened by securing an independent, human-led appraisal, and then manually contesting the AVM's data points using a portfolio of maintenance receipts and a neutral party inspection report. This is the 2026 version of fixing the script. Just as a radio producer might rewrite a scene to save a failing show, the agent rewrites the digital narrative of the home to save its equity. The psychological parallels to 1930s radio are striking. Consider the concept of the unseen terror. In shows like Lights Out, the most frightening monsters were the ones you couldn't see, only hear. The AVM is the unseen terror of the modern homeowner. You don't know exactly what variables it is weighing. Does it know your neighbor's house has been in foreclosure for 6 months? Does it know that the local school district's rating just slipped? In a divorce where both parties are already paranoid and hypervigilant, the flickering numbers on a real estate app can become a source of profound emotional distress. Historical trends in the U.S. housing market show that property values in neighborhoods with high turnover or transient indicators, like high divorce rates, can experience localized stagnation. The algorithm sees a pattern of instability and labels the entire zip code as a higher risk for mortgage-backed securities. This is where the divorce real estate agent's role transcends the individual transaction and becomes a matter of community stabilization. By ensuring that divorce-related sales are handled professionally, quickly, and at market value, they prevent comparable sale contamination. One bad, emotional fire sale in a cul-de-sac can lower the appraised value for every neighbor on that street. Let's dive into the step-by-step mechanics of the appraisal shield. When a divorce specialist prepares a home for an appraisal in 2026, they don't just clean the house, they curate the information environment. First, they prepare a narrative packet for the appraiser. This packet doesn't mention the divorce because the goal is to keep the human appraiser focused on the asset, not the drama. It includes a list of upgrades, the age of all systems, and most importantly, a list of positive comparables that the agent has hand-selected to support the desired valuation. Second, they manage the physical environment. If the spouses cannot be in the same room, the agent ensures that neither is present during the appraisal. Nothing kills a valuation faster than an appraiser walking into the middle of a shouting match or seeing a wall where a wedding photo was clearly ripped off, taking the drywall with it. The data on domestic stability grading is a controversial topic in 2026. While lenders are prohibited from discriminating based on marital status, the proxies for marital status are everywhere in the digital world. Frequent changes in bank account titles, split utility bills, and even changes in geofencing patterns for mobile devices can all be aggregated into a stability score by third-party data brokers. The divorce real estate agent must advise their clients on data hygiene during the sale process. This means maintaining a facade of domestic continuity until the house is under contract. It is a performance. It is the theater of the stable home. Think back to the radio drama The Shadow. The famous tagline was, "Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows." In 2026, the AVM is the shadow. It sees the late payments on the joint credit card. It sees the sudden surge in legal retainers being paid out of the home equity line of credit. It knows the house is going to be for sale before the for sale sign even hits the lawn. This is why the specialized agent is no longer an optional luxury, but a structural necessity. You need someone who knows how to put the mask on the data. This brings us to the ultimate conflict, the battle for the bottom line. In a divorce, every $1,000 lost to a bad appraisal is $1,000 that isn't going toward a child's college fund or a new start for the individuals involved. The stakes are as high as any climax in a broadcast drama. But in this script, there is no the end screen, only a new beginning. As we move toward the next section of this deep dive, we have to look at the darker side of this history. We've talked about technology and narratives, but we haven't talked about the agent as the antagonist. What happens when the person hired to sell the home becomes a double agent? What happens when the radio script is written to favor one spouse over the other, or worse, to benefit the agent at the expense of a grieving family? The next part of our masterclass uncovers the ethics of the airwaves and the hidden traps of the real estate commission in the age of the specialist. We will reveal the commission collusion scripts and how to spot an agent who is playing both sides of the microphone. We are entering the territory of the real estate noir, where the truth is hidden in the fine print and the shadows are longer than they appear. The concept of the real estate noir is not just a stylistic choice for this masterclass. It is a structural reality in the high-stakes world of marital dissolution. In the 1940s, noir radio dramas like Dragnet or Suspense relied on the untrustworthy narrator, a character who tells you one thing while the audience suspects another. In 2026, the untrustworthy narrator is often the real estate agent who has failed to maintain the strict wall of neutrality required for a divorce sale. When an agent is referred by one spouse's attorney, or has a pre-existing friendship with only one party, the potential outcomes for conflict of interest skyrocket. This is where the script of the sale begins to fracture, and the equity of the home begins to bleed into the pockets of the unethical. Imagine if you are Jennifer, a homeowner in Scottsdale, Arizona. You are in the middle of a painful separation from your husband, Michael. Michael suggests using a realtor who is a longtime golfing buddy of his. He tells you it is just to save time and because the guy is a pro. What he doesn't tell you is that the agent has already scripted a narrative in his mind where Michael is the victim and you are the obstacle. This is the real estate noir archetype of the double agent. In this scenario, every piece of advice the agent gives, like suggesting a lower listing price to move the house fast, is subtly tilted to favor Michael's desire for quick liquidity over your need for long-term financial stability. Historical trends in the United States legal system show that breach of fiduciary duty is one of the most common causes for litigation against real estate professionals in matrimonial cases. A fiduciary duty means the agent must act in the best interest of both sellers equally. However, in the heat of a divorce, many agents fall into the trap of alliance building. They pick a side. They start BSing one spouse on emails that the other spouse shouldn't see. They provide verbal updates to one while sending formal, cold letters to the other. This is the 2026 version of a radio show subplot, where a secondary character works behind the scenes to sabotage the protagonist. The step-by-step breakdown of commission collusion often starts with the referral fee. In some less-than-ethical circles, an attorney might refer a client to a specific real estate agent with the unspoken expectation of a kickback or a reciprocal referral. This creates a closed loop of professionals who are more interested in maintaining their referral network than in protecting the equity of the divorcing couple. To counter this, the specialized divorce real estate agent often operates under a certified divorce real estate expert designation. These professionals are trained to recognize the red flags of collusion. They insist on a three-way communication protocol where every single text, call log, and email is shared with both spouses and both of their legal teams simultaneously. No private sidebar conversations are allowed. Consider the data on sales-to-list ratios in divorce cases. When an agent is truly neutral, the home typically sells for a price that aligns with the neighborhood average. However, in cases where an agent is aligned with the spouse who wants to punish the other by liquidating assets at a loss, we see the sales-to-list ratio drop significantly below the 98% mark common in healthy U.S. markets. This is a deliberate scripting of failure. The agent might purposely schedule showings at inconvenient times or fail to highlight the home's best features in the digital listing, all while telling the court that the market is simply soft. The historical parallel to radio is found in the payola scandals. In the early days of broadcasting, record labels would pay disc jockeys to play certain songs, creating an artificial sense of popularity. In real estate, a biased agent can create an artificial sense of market desperation. They might present only the lowest offers to the spouses, claiming that these are the only bites they are getting, while quietly discouraging higher quality buyers who might require more work to close. They are playing a short game to get their commission and get out of the crossfire. To protect yourself in this real estate noir environment, you must understand the vetting script. Before hiring an agent in a divorce scenario, both parties should interview the candidates separately and together. The first question should always be, what is your protocol for communicating with two hostile parties? If the agent says, "Oh, don't worry, I'm a great people person, I'll just handle it," you should run. That is a generalized answer for a specialized crisis. A professional will instead point to their communication log software or their standard operating procedure for dual-party authorization. They will have a script for how to handle a situation where one spouse refuses to sign a closing document, a scenario that happens in roughly 15% of high-conflict divorce sales. Step by step, the vetting process involves 1. Checking the agent's history of specialist designations. 2. Asking for a sample of their weekly activity report, which should clearly show how information is distributed to both sides. 3. Verifying their relationship with both matrimonial attorneys involved. If the agent has a preferred status with only one side's lawyer, it is a structural imbalance that can lead to a narrative bias. Let's look at a case study from a 2026 transaction in Atlanta, Georgia. An agent was hired to sell a $900,000 estate. The wife was living in the house. The husband had moved out. The agent, seeking to please the husband who was paying the mortgage, allowed prospective buyers to tour the home with only 2 hours' notice, intentionally catching the wife in a state of disarray to make the house look less appealing and force a lower offer. This is tactical showing sabotage. The wife's attorney eventually discovered a series of text messages between the husband and the agent plotting this strategy. The result was a massive professional liability lawsuit and a court-ordered change of listing agent. This is the dark underbelly of the American radio drama analogy. While radio gave us heroes like the Lone Ranger, it also gave us the con artist characters who thrived on the anonymity of the airwaves. In the real estate market of 2026, an agent's digital reputation is their only shield. But even a 5-star rating can hide a biased heart. The divorce real estate agent must be more than a salesperson. They must be a fiduciary watchman. They are the ones who ensure that the sound effects of the sale, the staging, the photography, the open houses, are not being manipulated to serve a hidden agenda. As we conclude this segment of our deep dive, we have exposed the more elements of the industry. We have seen how the script can be flipped by those in power to disadvantage the vulnerable. But there is another layer to this history that we have yet to uncover. It is the secret language of the listing contract itself. In the 1940s, certain words were banned from the radio airwaves by the Hays Code and the FCC. In 2026, there are hidden clauses in real estate contracts that can effectively trap a divorcing couple in a listing they no longer want, with an agent they no longer trust. What are the forbidden words of the 2026 real estate contract? And how does a termination clause function as the ultimate plot twist in a divorce sale? In the next part of our masterclass, we will deconstruct the fine print of the matrimonial listing agreement. We will show you how to write a kill switch into your contract to ensure that you are never held hostage by a biased agent. We are going into the legal writer's room to show you how to take control of the pen before the final act of your marriage is signed away. The shadows are about to get even darker as we look at the contractual Cold War between sellers and their representatives. The contractual Cold War is where the theoretical empathy of real estate marketing meets the cold, razor-sharp reality of North American contract law. In the golden age of radio, the script was king, but the contract between the network and the talent was the law. If an actor like Orson Welles wanted to change a line in a broadcast, he had to navigate a labyrinth of corporate approvals and sponsor stipulations. In 2026, a divorcing couple in the United States faces a similar labyrinth when they sign a listing agreement. Most people view a listing contract as a simple permission slip to sell a house. In a divorce scenario, it is actually a binding peace treaty, and like any treaty, the fine print determines who wins the post-war reconstruction. Imagine if you are Thomas, a homeowner in Nashville, Tennessee. You and your spouse, Elena, are in the middle of a high-conflict split. You both sign a standard 6-month listing agreement with an agent. 3 months in, you realize the agent is incompetent. They are leaking your private financial struggles to potential buyers to create a sense of urgency, which is actually driving offers down. You want to fire the agent. But here is the plot twist. Elena, out of pure spite for you, refuses to sign the termination agreement. Because the listing contract requires the signatures of all titled owners to cancel, you are now legally tethered to an agent who is incinerating your equity, and you are powerless to stop it. This is the contractual deadlock, and it is the most common trap in the industry. The divorce real estate specialist avoids this by utilizing the kill switch clause. This is a custom addendum that stipulates the conditions under which the contract can be unilaterally terminated, or how a tiebreaker will be handled. Step by step, a professional script for this clause might include a provision that if both attorneys of record agree the agent is failing to meet specific performance benchmarks, the contract is voided without the need for the spouses to agree. Historical trends in 2026 show that agents who refuse to include these safety valves are often the ones most likely to cause a professional liability claim later. They are essentially holding the marital asset hostage for a commission. To understand the weight of these words, we look back at the 1934 Communications Act in the United States. This act dictated that radio stations must operate in the public interest, convenience, and necessity. If they failed, they lost their license. In modern real estate, the listing agreement should operate in the marital estate's interest. However, many standard forms contain a protection period clause. This is a snippet of text that says if the contract expires, but you sell the house to someone who saw it while the agent was in charge, you still owe them a commission. In a divorce, this clause can be weaponized. One spouse might secretly tell a friend to wait until the listing expires to buy the house for a lower price, thinking they can dodge the commission, only to trigger a massive legal bill and a lien on the property. Let us examine a case study from a 2026 transaction in Denver, Colorado. A couple was selling a mid-century modern home valued at $1.5 million. The listing agreement had a poorly defined expense reimbursement clause. When the house didn't sell in the first 60 days, the agent charged the couple $15,000 for advanced digital marketing and drone cinematography, which was buried in the fine print. The husband wanted to pay it to keep the peace. The wife argued the expenses were unauthorized. This disagreement stalled the sale for another 3 months, while the lawyers billed $400 an hour to argue over a marketing bill. A specialist agent would have used a not-to-exceed cap and a pre-authorization script, ensuring every dollar spent was agreed upon in writing by both legal teams before the shutter clicked on the camera. The history of radio also gives us the concept of the moral obligation. During the 1940s, certain sponsors would pull their funding if a radio star was involved in a public scandal, citing a morals clause. In the 2026 real estate contract, we see a shift toward the professional neutrality clause. This is a contractual promise that the agent will not provide testimony for one spouse against the other in family court. This is crucial. Imagine if your real estate agent, who has been inside your home and seen your private arguments, is subpoenaed to testify about your temper or your parenting based on what they saw during a showing. A true specialist includes a clause that protects them, and the sellers, from being dragged into the litigation. They are there to sell the asset, not to be a witness in the character assassination. Step by step, the construction of a divorce-ready listing agreement involves 1. The appointment of a single point of contact for logistics, but a dual reporting requirement for all financial offers. 2. A predefined liquidated damages section that outlines what happens if one spouse sabotages a showing. 3. A clear exit strategy that doesn't require mutual consent if the agent fails to perform. This is about taking the weapon of the contract out of the hands of the angry spouse and putting it back into the hands of the process. There is also the matter of the pocket listing, which in the radio era would have been called an off-the-record broadcast. This is when an agent tries to sell the house without putting it on the open market, often to a friend or a preferred investor. In a divorce, this is a massive red flag. Historical data suggests that homes sold off-market in divorce scenarios often fetch 10% to 15%, less than those exposed to the full competitive force of the multiple listing service or MLS. The agent might justify it by saying it keeps the neighbors out of your business, but the potential outcome is a massive loss of equity. A specialized contract will explicitly forbid off-market dealings without the written consent of both matrimonial attorneys. We are witnessing the evolution of the real estate script from a sales pitch to a legal framework. In the 1930s, the radio script told the actor when to cry and when to laugh. In 2026, the real estate contract tells the divorcing couple when to sign and when to move. If the contract is weak, the drama takes over. If the contract is strong, the drama is contained. The agent is the director of this performance, and the listing agreement is their screenplay. If you don't like the script, you cannot change the ending. Consider the scenario of the delayed closing. In a typical U.S. sale, a delay of 3 days is a nuisance. In a divorce, a delay of 3 days can mean the difference between a spouse being able to afford a new apartment or being homeless, especially if their bridge loan is contingent on the closing date. The specialist agent builds time is of the essence clauses into the contract specifically for these high-stakes transitions. They treat the closing date like a radio broadcast's hard out. When the clock hits 0, the show must end. As we move toward the final stages of this masterclass, we have to address the most sensitive part of the entire process: the children and the pets. In the radio dramas of the past, the child actor was often used to pull at the heartstrings of the audience to sell more soap. In the divorce real estate world of 2026, the kids are often the silent victims of the staging process. How do you stage a home for a viral sale while 2 children are having their lives dismantled in the next room? How do you manage the visual narrative of a happy home when the bedrooms are filled with half-packed boxes and tears? The next part of our deep dive explores the emotional staging of the broken home. We will look at the prop mastery of the modern agent and how they use sensory details to mask the scent of a dying marriage. We are going into the psychology of the open house and why the most successful agents in 2026 are using techniques pioneered by 1950s radio psychologists to calm the anxieties of buyers and sellers alike. What is the scent of stability? And why is it the most powerful tool in the agent's arsenal? The answers will change the way you look at every for sale sign in your neighborhood. The scent of stability is not just a poetic phrase. It is a neurological hack used by professional divorce real estate specialists to anchor a chaotic environment. In the 1950s, radio psychologists began to understand the power of sensory association. Shows like Romance would use lush orchestral swells and specific vocal cadences to induce a state of relaxation in the listener, making them more receptive to the commercials for home goods that followed. In the year 2026, the real estate industry has taken this a step further. We are now in the age of olfactory and emotional staging. When a buyer walks into a home being sold due to a divorce, they can often smell the stress, It sounds like science fiction, but humans emit specific pheromones when under extreme cortisol-heavy pressure. A house that has been the site of 6 months of screaming matches literally smells different to the subconscious brain of a buyer. The divorce real estate agent acts as the lead sound engineer for this sensory experience. Their goal is to replace the scent of a dying marriage with the scent of a fresh start. This involves a step-by-step sensory audit. Step 1. Neutralization. This isn't just about cleaning. It involves industrial-grade ozone machines to strip the air of any lingering domesticity. Step 2. Relayering. Historically, agents would bake cookies, but in 2026, they use scientifically formulated scents like white tea, cedar, or linen, scents that the U.S. public associates with high-end hotels and stability. They are creating a theater of the mind where the buyer believes the previous occupants were organized, calm, and prosperous, rather than fractured and fleeing. Imagine if you are Sarah, a potential buyer in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. You walk into a beautiful colonial home. You don't know it's a divorce sale. The divorce specialist has curated the environment so perfectly that you see 2 neatly organized closets, even though the husband is actually living out of a suitcase in a motel across town. The agent has utilized a technique called ghost staging. They've brought in a high-end furniture rental company to replace the worn-out tear-stained sofa with a crisp, mid-century modern sectional. They've replaced the cluttered family photos with neutral aspirational art. You aren't buying a house. You are buying the script of a life that never existed in that space. This brings us to the emotional staging of children's rooms. This is the most sensitive script an agent will ever write. In the old radio dramas, a child's laughter was used as a shortcut to signal safety to the audience. In a divorce sale, the kids' bedrooms can be the biggest deal killers. If a buyer walks into a child's room and sees half-packed boxes and a missing bed, the psychological weight of the tragedy can cause them to subconsciously devalue the home or walk away entirely. The buyer doesn't want to feel like a vulture preying on a family's misfortune. To counter this, the specialist agent scripts a transition narrative. They might advise the parents to keep the children's rooms fully intact until the day of the move, or they utilize temporary staging to make the rooms look like guest rooms or hobby spaces. They are removing the evidence of the trauma to protect the equity of the estate. The data on staging ROI in divorce cases is staggering. Historical trends in the U.S. housing market for 2026 suggest that professionally staged homes in the midst of a divorce sell for approximately 6% to 10% more than those sold in their raw, distressed state. When you are talking about a $500,000 home, that is a $50,000 difference, money that can pay for years of therapy or a significant portion of a new down payment. The cost of the staging is an investment in the narrative shield. But let's look at the case study of the spiteful seller. In a 2026 transaction in Seattle, Washington, the wife was a professional chef who took immense pride in her kitchen. The husband, in an attempt to lower the home's value so he could buy her out at a discount, would fry fish and leave the garbage unemptied before every showing. He was weaponizing the scent of instability. The specialist agent intervened by installing a remote-monitored air filtration system and hiring a daily maid service, with the costs billed as a lien against the husband's final proceeds. The agent understood that in the high-stakes radio drama of real estate, you cannot let one actor ruin the entire production. This leads to the concept of the open house scripting. In the 1940s, a radio announcer had a very specific way of introducing a program to build anticipation. Today, the divorce agent uses a technique called strategic ambiguity during open houses. When a buyer asks, "Why are they moving?" a standard agent might slip up and say, "Oh, they're getting a divorce." A specialist has a rehearsed, legal team-approved response. The sellers are going through a life transition and are highly motivated to see the property pass to someone who will appreciate its value. They never use the D word. They keep the focus on the asset, not the inhabitants. They understand that as soon as the word divorce is uttered, the buyers start looking for cracks in the foundation and blood on the carpet, metaphorically and literally. We must also discuss the role of pets in this emotional staging. In radio, the sound of a barking dog was a classic trope for a happy home. In real estate, a dog during a divorce is often a stressed animal. They sense the tension. They might bark more, have accidents, or act out. Historical data from 2026 indicates that properties with pets present during showings in high-conflict cases have a 20% lower conversion rate from showing to offer. The specialist agent coordinates pet sitting or temporary boarding as part of the listing strategy. They are removing the variables of chaos. The psychological toll on the agent themselves is another hidden layer of this history. Much like the war correspondents of the 1940s who had to maintain a steady voice while bombs fell behind them, the divorce agent is often a sponge for the couple's collective trauma. They are part-time therapist, part-time referee, and full-time salesperson. We are seeing a rise in specialized training programs in the U.S. that focus on trauma-informed real estate. This isn't just about being nice. It's about understanding the biological reality of how a brain in crisis processes information. If a client is in a fight or flight state, they cannot understand a complex closing disclosure. The agent must slow down the script, use repetitive loops of information, and provide written summaries of every verbal conversation. This is the theater of empathy. The agent is creating a safe container for a dangerous process. By controlling the scents, the sounds, and the visual cues of the home, they are preventing the market panic that often follows a public domestic collapse. They are ensuring that the American dream doesn't turn into a public service announcement about the dangers of a bad breakup. As we approach the penultimate part of this masterclass, we have to look at the final hurdle, the closing table. In the radio era, the final episode of a long-running series was a massive cultural event. In real estate, the closing is the moment the ink dries and the keys change hands. But what happens when one spouse refuses to show up? What happens when the final act is interrupted by a last-minute legal injunction or a hidden lien that neither spouse knew about? The next part of our deep dive explores the closing room crisis and the escrow standball. We will reveal the step-by-step strategies used by elite agents to ensure that the final broadcast goes off without a hitch, even if the stars of the show are no longer on speaking terms. We will look at the rise of virtual closings and the digital notary of 2026, and why the physical closing table is becoming a relic of a more violent past. Get ready for the most intense chapter yet, the final signature. The physical closing table has historically been the final set piece of the American real estate drama, a place where all parties converge to sign away their past and fund their future. But in the context of a high-conflict divorce in 2026, this room has become a volatile stage that many specialized agents now work tirelessly to avoid. In the golden age of radio, the live broadcast was the ultimate test of nerves. There were no second takes, and if an actor went off script, the entire nation heard the fallout. Similarly, a physical closing with two divorcing spouses, their respective attorneys, and a neutral notary is a live broadcast waiting for a disaster. One wrong look, one snide comment about the distribution of proceeds, or one disagreement over a minor repair credit can cause a complete systemic collapse. This is why the year 2026 has seen the rise of the split closing and the digital escrow buffer. A divorce real estate specialist almost never insists on both parties being in the same room. Instead, they script a two-part finale. Imagine if you are Michael, a seller in a suburb of Philadelphia. Your agent has scheduled your signing for 9 a.m. on a Tuesday at a satellite office. Your ex-spouse, Linda, is scheduled for 4 p.m. at a completely different location, or perhaps she is utilizing a mobile digital notary from her new residence in another state. This separation of the cast is essential for maintaining the integrity of the transaction. By removing the proximity, the agent removes the opportunity for a last-minute emotional veto. Historical trends show that when divorcing couples are forced to close in the same room, the likelihood of a funding delay increases by nearly 25%. These delays are rarely due to financial issues, and are almost always due to emotional holdouts. We have seen case studies where a spouse, at the very moment of signing, decides they want an extra $5,000 for the refrigerator they suddenly realize they miss, refusing to put pen to paper until the other side caves. In the world of radio, this would be the equivalent of a lead actor refusing to read the final line of the script unless they received a larger dressing room. The divorce agent prevents this by ensuring that all settlement statements, or ALTA forms, are reviewed and signed off by the legal teams at least 48 hours before the actual closing appointment. The role of the digital notary in 2026 is the ultimate technological intervention. Using biometrics and multi-factor authentication, a seller can now sign their closing documents from their smartphone. The software records the session, verifies the identity of the signer through AI-driven facial recognition, and applies a tamper-evident digital seal. This is the 2026 version of the recorded transcription disc. It provides a permanent, undeniable record of the intent to sell. For the specialist agent, this technology is a godsend because it allows them to manage the closing room crisis without the physical risk of a confrontation. But what happens if there is an escrow standball? This is a term used in the industry when the title company has the money from the buyer has the keys, but the title company cannot release the funds to the sellers because of a last-minute dispute over the payout. Imagine if the husband suddenly claims that the wife owes him for 3 months of utility bills and demands that the title company deduct it from her half of the proceeds. In a standard sale, the title company would simply wait for them to work it out. In a divorce sale, the specialist agent has already anticipated this with a stipulation of proceeds. This is a legal document, often drafted by the attorneys and held by the agent, that tells the title company exactly how to cut the checks down to the last penny. The agent's job is to ensure that the title officer follows the court order, not the emotional demands of the parties at the table. Step by step, the management of a divorce closing looks like this. Step 1: the pre-audit. 7 days before closing, the agent confirms all liens, including any secret lines of credit or child support arrears that might have been filed against the property title during the listing period. Step 2: the separate signing. The agent coordinates with the title company to ensure the parties never cross paths. Step 3: the key handover. In a divorce, you never leave the keys on the kitchen counter for the buyer to find. The agent collects all keys, garage door openers, and smart home codes from both parties and delivers them to the buyer's agent at a neutral location. This prevents one spouse from accidentally keeping a key and returning to the property after the sale. Let us look at a case study from a 2026 transaction in San Diego, California. The home was a luxury condo. The husband had agreed to the sale but was emotionally paralyzed by the finality of it. On the day of closing, he went dark. He didn't answer his phone, and he didn't show up for his digital notary appointment. The agent, prepared for this script abandonment, had already worked with the wife's attorney to have a special master appointed by the court. This is a neutral third party who has the legal authority to sign the closing documents on behalf of a non-compliant spouse. Because the agent had flagged the husband as a high-risk signer early in the process, the legal mechanism was already in place. The sale closed on time, and the equity was preserved. The historical parallel here is the 1938 War of the Worlds panic. When the broadcast ended, the actors went home, but the public was left in a state of shock. A real estate closing is similar. Once the papers are signed, the agent's phone often stops ringing. The intense, daily communication that defined the last 3 months suddenly goes silent. For the divorcing couple, this silence can be deafening. It is the moment the series finale actually airs. The agent's final act of professional empathy is the handoff to the next chapter. They provide a final portfolio that includes all the closing documents, the final utility readings, and a list of neutral resources for their next move. Data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and various real estate trade groups indicates that as the American population ages and the silver divorce trend continues, the demand for these specialized closing protocols is expected to grow by 15% over the next decade. We are moving toward a future where the human element of the closing is almost entirely replaced by automated, legally insulated systems. The goal is to make the transfer of property as clinical and as drama-free as possible. However, there is one final piece of the radio drama history that we must address. Every great show had a stinger. A final unexpected note that left the audience thinking long after the broadcast ended. In the world of the divorce real estate agent, the stinger is the post-closing liability. Just because the house is sold doesn't mean the agent is out of the woods. If the buyer discovers a defect that one spouse hid from the other and from the agent, the script can be pulled back into the courtroom years later. As we prepare for the final part of this masterclass, we have to look at the legacy of the sale. We've covered the history of the airwaves, the psychology of the smart home, the noir of commission collusion, and the intensity of the closing room. But what is the ultimate potential outcome for the American family in this new landscape? Are we better off with these hyper-specialized agents and algorithmic protections, or have we lost the human heart of the home in the process? The final chapter of our deep dive will tie the golden age of radio to the future of American living. We will look at the universal narrative of the home and why, despite all the technology and all the legal drama, the house remains the most powerful symbol in the American script. We will explore the post-series life of the sellers and how a perfectly executed specialized sale provides the foundation for the most important part of any story, the reboot. Get ready for the grand finale of American radio drama history and the divorce real estate agent. The transmission is almost complete. But the resonance of this story lingers far beyond the final fade-out. To understand the legacy of the American home in 2026, we must look at the concept of the reboot. In the golden age of radio, a show didn't just end. It often evolved. When a popular program lost its lead actor or its primary sponsor, the writers would perform a narrative pivot, rebranding the series for a new era while maintaining the same frequency. This is precisely what a divorce real estate agent facilitates for the American family. They are not just liquidating an asset, they are managing the structural transition from a singular household narrative into two distinct, independent sequels. The historical trends of the 21st century have shown that the home is no longer a static monument to a lifelong union. Instead, it has become a liquid asset that serves as the primary engine for personal reinvention. In 1940, the average American stayed in their home for several decades, mirroring the long-running stability of radio serials like One Man's Family, which broadcast for 27 years. By contrast, the 2026 housing market is defined by agility. The divorce specialist understands that the potential outcomes of a perfectly executed sale are not just financial, but psychological. They are clearing the frequency so that a new signal can be broadcast. Imagine if you are James, a resident of a quiet cul-de-sac in Portland, Oregon. The house has been sold, the escrow has funded, and you are standing in an empty living room. In the radio era, this would be the static between stations. But in the modern real estate script, this is the moment of the narrative handoff. The agent's final task is to ensure that the transition into your next residence is as insulated from the previous drama as possible. Case studies from 2026 highlight a new service offered by elite specialists, the relocation scrub. This involves more than just a moving truck. It is a coordinated effort to ensure that your new digital footprint is separate from your ex-spouse. The agent works with specialized movers who understand the sensitivity of split asset inventories, ensuring that items are categorized, tracked, and delivered to two different locations without the friction of a shared packing day. This brings us back to the power of the script. In the 1930s, the script was a tool for control. In 2026, it is a tool for liberation. The divorce real estate specialist uses a finality protocol to close the loop. This includes a step-by-step closeout of all joint accounts related to the property, the solar panel leases, the smart home subscriptions, and the neighborhood association portals. If these loops are left open, they become the ghosts in the machine that haunt the next chapter. Historical data indicates that unresolved joint property obligations are a leading cause of post-divorce litigation. By treating the sale like a professional broadcast production, the agent ensures there are no loose threads when the credits roll. Let us look at the case study of the Heritage Home in Charleston, South Carolina. The property had been in the family for generations, but a bitter divorce threatened to result in a court-ordered auction that would have stripped the family of their historical equity. The agent, acting as a historical consultant and mediator, utilized a technique called the equity buyout script. Instead of a public sale, the agent facilitated a private valuation and a structured buyout that allowed one spouse to retain the home while the other received a diversified portfolio of other marital assets. This required a level of creative financing and legal coordination that a generalist agent simply cannot provide. It saved the family's legacy by treating the house not as a commodity to be discarded, but as a character that needed a new role. The psychological parallel to radio history is found in the sign-off. Every major radio personality had a signature sign-off, a phrase that signaled the end of the day's journey. For the divorce real estate agent, the sign-off is the delivery of the final settlement folder. In 2026, this is often a secure, encrypted digital vault containing every document, every inspection, and every warranty associated with the sale. It is the definitive archive of the transaction. It provides the sellers with a sense of completion. They can figuratively and literally close the file. But what is the broader cultural potential outcome of this specialization? We are seeing the professionalization of empathy. The U.S. housing market is beginning to mirror the sophistication of the old radio networks. Just as NBC and CBS had specialized departments for news, drama, and education, the real estate industry is moved toward a model of departmentalized expertise. The divorce real estate specialist is the precursor to a wave of new roles. The probate real estate specialist, the senior transition specialist, and the multi-generational living consultant. We are no longer just buying and selling houses. We are managing life cycle milestones through the lens of real property. The data on market stability supports this shift. In regions where specialized agents handle a higher percentage of distressed or matrimonial sales, neighborhood property values remain 4% to 7% more stable during economic downturns. This is because these agents prevent the panic selling and malicious neglect that can act as a contagion in a suburban block. They are the shock absorbers of the American suburbs. They ensure that even when a marriage fails, the neighborhood remains a viable, high-value investment for everyone else. As we reach the conclusion of this 10-part masterclass, we must reflect on the house itself. In 1945, at the end of World War II, the radio was the place where Americans heard that the war was over, and it was time to build a new world. The housing boom that followed was a direct response to that broadcast. In 2026, we are in a different kind of post-war era, a period of internal domestic shifts. The divorce real estate agent is the one standing at the crossroads of this transition. They remind us that while the inhabitants of a house may change, the house remains a vessel for the American narrative. Think back to the first part of this series, the American radio drama. It was a medium built on imagination, voice, and the belief that even in the dark, we could connect with one another. The modern real estate specialist operates on the same frequency. They use their voice to de-escalate, their imagination to find solutions where others see deadlocks, and their professional expertise to connect a fractured past to a functional future. The final open loop of this series is not about the sale itself, but about the seller. What happens when you walk through the door of your new home, the one you bought with the equity protected by a specialist? You realize that the script of your life is yours to write. The history of American radio taught us that the most popular shows were the ones that could reinvent themselves season after season. Your life is the same. The house was just the stage. The divorce was just a plot twist. And the specialist agent was the producer who made sure the lights stayed on for the next scene. This concludes our deep dive into American radio drama history and the divorce real estate agent. We have traveled from the cathedral radios of the 1930s to the algorithmic appraisals of 2026. We have seen the noir shadows of the commission wars and the sensory precision of the scent of stability. The next time you see a for sale sign, remember that there is a script behind it. There is a narrator, a protagonist, and a hidden history waiting to be told. The transmission is complete. Stand by for the next broadcast.